Again, this is a very reliable spot and nothing there. It doesn't matter, just leave them out a few more days. You know, if you're new to this, just because something doesn't work one night doesn't mean there's nothing there. Sometimes it takes a few days. Hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and this is my second rabbit snaring video of this year. We're out to check the ones I set the other day and see what kind of luck we had. I only set a few. I'm gonna set a few more today and just sort of keep building on that for as long as I'm on vacation. I can check them regularly. So let's go have a look and see what we got. All right, so here's the spot where I chose not to set a snare, but to just basically put some bait out, some birch tips, and see if anything got at them. So it's probably been a night. One of them appears to be, you know, had been bitten off, but that might have been the case before. I may not have noticed that. I don't notice that any of the other ones have been worked on in any way. So I don't really think, you know, it's evidence of anything. Now, that doesn't mean there's nothing here. It just means nothing was here last night. I have to give these a few days to see if anything's happening here. Anyway, definitely not worth dropping everything to set a snare here at this point, at this stage, because there's no tracks. I don't really see much poop, but it definitely looks like a trail. But we'll see what happens. Well, here's the first snare we set last time, and there's no sign that anything's been added or near it or down this trail. Doesn't mean that won't be the case tonight. Just have to wait. That's why you set a lot of snares if you want to have success. You got to set a lot of snares, because you never know. I mean, number one, this just might not be a good trail, might not be a high frequency trail. Looks like it is, but that doesn't mean anything. You just never know, right? So we'll check it again, see what happens. Well, this is curious. This is a spot that, with the exception of last year, I usually set a snare almost every year, and it's always been reliable, always a good spot. And it doesn't look like anything's been through here. Normally, if something goes through and the snare doesn't work, it's pushed aside, it's flipped up, it's, you know, half closed, something's messed with it, right? So I don't really know what's going on here. It may have jumped over. I'll put another stick up there just to take that option away, right? That may have happened. Unlikely. So anyway, just you know, all you can do is just, you know, fence it in a little better, and hopefully that's all that's I'm gonna cooperate there. Fence in a little better, and hopefully that's all that's needed. There we go. Hopefully that changes things. Anyway, just never know with these things. We'll see what happens. Also, the same run, right? There's a run, starts over there and it goes that way. So I got a snare over here. Again, this is a very reliable spot and nothing there. So I don't know, for whatever reason, they're just not moving through here. It doesn't matter. Just leave them out a few more days. You know, if you're new to this, just because something doesn't work one night doesn't mean there's nothing there. Sometimes it takes a few days. Another one over here, same area, same basic set of runs, and right down there. No sign of anything happening there at all. So yeah, we'll just check that in another day or two. That's a neat part of the trail here. I thought I'd just share. It was kind of a pain to cut a trail through this area. You can just tell, you know, just barely sort of cut a path through. And there's always trees falling down here, so it's always sort of difficult to maintain a trail. The deer don't seem to have any problems here. Any young maple tree, like this one here, right? You can see the signs of deer feeding on it, right? Lots of shoots coming off and some bitten off, right? But so they don't seem to mind this sort of terrain at all. Perhaps they're better equipped to handle it than me. Here's the spot here, right? 2 trees have fallen down since last year. This one was here before, but this one fell down and this one fell on top of it, right? So I could deal with that with the you know, folding saw, but that's the good thing about having a walking stick. You can negotiate this sort of stuff with a much greater degree of confidence. Right, just show you what that looks like from here. So it's about 2.5, 3 feet high. Well, this might not mean much to a younger person, but there's a point in your late 40s, early 50s where just everything doesn't quite work as well. Let's just put it that way. The flexibility goes down a bit, and the reflexes go down a bit. So having the walking stick third leg is extra handy because it just gives you that added stability and assurance, right, that you're not going to go down. And anyway, here we're at that spot where I said just seemed like a nice spot, where it seems like a very, if I was a deer, it'd be a nice spot to be. And I just noticed another pile of deer poop, and this is fresh, very fresh, maybe from today, right? So I mean, this might be a bedding zone. I mean, it just has this cozy feel to it. There's deer poop everywhere. Look, another pile right there. Right, this is the zone, man. So they like it here. I set a rabbit snare here, so let's see if there's anything in that. Nothing. Right, there's the snare down there. Right, nothing there. Nothing happening. Unbelievable. I'm kind of mystified at the lack of action going on here. Anyway, turn the camera off and catch up with you in a few more minutes at the next spot. Here's another snare in a spot where, to me, is a very obvious trail. Nothing. I just can't believe it. I'm mystified at this one. It just looks so well traveled, so well used. It looks like a highway. Maybe they're not moving at night these days. I don't know. I mean, give it another day and see what happens, I guess. Three, two, one. Just walking through this thick woods here. And I can't believe I haven't, I mean, it's hard to see things, but this time of year the rabbits are white. You know, I'm surprised I haven't seen a thing. Also haven't seen like partridge, anything. And I mean, some people might comment, oh, it's those coyotes, blah, 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 blah. You know, they're always around. Those two populations work in cycle with one another. It's never one factor like that affecting things. Like, here's another snare. And I mean, I'm very careful. You should never walk on the rabbit trails where your snares are. There's another snare set in a really good trail, really obvious trail. Nothing, not a thing. No sign of it being, actually, wait a minute. This one does look like it was half sprung. That could have been a squirrel. Sometimes they use the trails. So it was moved. Could have been a squirrel or a partridge. I'm using the word partridge to refer to what's typically out here as ruffed grouse. So something could have touched that. That's possible. It's a really good trail. Really. If you look down through here like this, really obvious trail. I'm kind of mystified that didn't prove to be effective. Another spot just around the corner here where I set one. Sort of new area. This is a new area that I haven't gone through before. But it looks productive. Where to put that? Yeah, right there. Really nice spot right there. But a really obvious trail, but no sign of anything going through there. So who knows? I like to sort of note interesting things along the way, and this is one of them. This here forest. There's fallen trees everywhere here. If you look over this way, right, a lot of dead trees, a lot of fallen over trees. Just everywhere there's trees that are sort of tipped over, fallen over. And if I were to try to walk in this direction, it would be unbelievably hard going. It's treacherous. There's basically a shin buster or trees, you know, waist high, shin and waist high trees everywhere, crisscrossing everywhere, and just impossible to get through. I actually do about 25 yards in that direction. I have a trail, a circuitous route that goes all around this area, And I have a shortcut across this, about 25 yards in that direction, that I cut over the course of 2 afternoons, just using an axe and a handsaw and a lot of elbow grease. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And that's just a path about 2 feet wide. And even then it's difficult to get through it. Like an elderly person would be at great risk navigating that terrain. And even I'm in pretty good shape, but I don't like doing it without a walking stick. Anyway, the terrain is just unbelievable there. So, when you notice stuff like that, this is an area where you just know this is a windy spot, right? You can just tell because there's all these trees that have blown over. It's a windy spot, right? You can see up there, there's an old, you can tell that, but it's an old remnants of an old deer blind that's just, looks like someone threw a grenade at it. And that was pretty much intact 10 years ago. It's just gone now, right? Just nothing left. Basically a platform built on 3 or 4 trees, right? So yeah, this is just an incredibly windy place. So depending on what your plans are, what you're looking for, knowing that, right? This might be a place deer would avoid on a windy day because it would be extra cold here, right? This is probably, so some things like wind, some things don't like wind. But this is definitely, if you got blown down trees everywhere. I mean, it's not like the soil isn't good. There's new growth all over the place, right? It's like a sea of 6-foot high spruce trees, but it's also a sea of blown down 30 to 50-year-old spruce trees everywhere. Looks like someone leveled this place with bombs, right? But that's just wind. And as far as the eye can see, there's like dead trees and blown down trees. But it's a perfectly healthy system here. Just for whatever reason, it picks up. It's really windy here. It's always wind blowing in your ears here. Well, that's about it for today. I was only out in the woods for about an hour. I was really moving. I was probably walking about twice the speed I normally walk. You can see I've stripped down, even though it's below freezing. I've just got basically a cotton t-shirt and a very thin wool sweater on, just because I was moving so quickly. I normally have something on my ears because my ears get cold very easily. Even that's gone today. Actually, I'm just moving so fast because I just had a lot of things on the go today, but I still wanted to get out and check the snares. And that's one of the beauty, and I added a few as well. I laid about 3 more out today, but I didn't have time to film the setting of them. I will do more filming of setting them as we go along here, just different sets, different situations, and so on and so forth. And I'll also, if you're following along and you're not comfortable with any of this stuff, I'll mention at the beginning of the video if there's going to be anything to see, that is to say, because I think it's important as a teaching tool to show success, but it's not like me standing over saying, oh, look how manly I am, look how great I am. More just matter of fact, like, here's proof of this technique working, here's proof of that technique working, really from a teaching point of view. Okay, but I'll make it fully obvious in the video if that's coming up in the content right at the beginning. Okay, so you'll know. So if that's not your thing and you're sort of put off by that, you can just shut it off. Watch the next one if there's something you do like, right? So anyway, yeah, good to get out in the woods. And for me, the thing about snaring is it forces you out in the woods on a regular basis. You've got a degree of anticipation. Every day you go out, you do a couple things. You try to be as clever as you can, working a plan. And then every day when you go out, you want to see if your plan worked. And you're keen to think about it and make adjustments and so on and so forth. For someone like me, my mentality, I don't really enjoy exercise for exercise's sake. I like to be doing something that just happens to be exercise. I realize I like to be in shape, I like to be fit, and I understand that exercise is important. But for me, I need to be doing something that's productive in my mind, and the exercise is a side effect. So when I'm gardening, I'm crouching, I'm digging, I'm picking things up, I'm getting exercise. When I'm fishing, I'm going for a hike. When I'm hunting, I'm going for a hike. So there's, and when I'm snaring in particular, there's a lot of crouching and bending, and you're sawing, and you're just doing all kinds of stuff. So it is really good exercise. And it just forces you out in the woods on a regular basis and gets you sort of plugged into what's going on. You notice the subtle changes. You notice the temperature changes. The other day when I was out, the temperature dropped about 8 degrees while I was out. It was around 0 Celsius when I left the house, and it was around -8 or -9 when I came home. And I could feel it. Partway through the day, I felt my face had gone numb. And I was doing that thing where you, I don't know if you would do this, but you roll your tongue on the inside of your cheek to thaw out your cheeks. I don't know, maybe that's a northern person thing, but anyway, just getting out on a regular basis is just really good for your psychology. It's really good for just getting plugged into the piece of land where you hunt, right? Being able to read them. You can see where the deer are going, you can see where the predators are going, the coyotes and the wildcats, because you can see their scat. And of course, when the snow's down, that's a whole different equation. You can see everything. It's so exciting when the snow's down, because you can see everything where it was. And if you're going out every day, you even know when it was where it was. So it's almost like you're reading an interesting book every day, and the book changes every day, and you're getting a sense of how things work in the forest where you do that sort of thing. So, you know, it's just really, the snaring is such a great activity for getting you out there, using your different tools, using your smarts, and just plugging into the wild and getting connected to it. So, all right, so it's day 3 checking the snares, and I got my young fellow out here holding the camera, and actually had some success. So come have a look here. We'll fall down. So just sort of looking there. So this probably happened last night. Looks like he went right over it. Another good reason for having a duck bar is that when they're flopping around, they'll go over it, and it just makes it that much harder for them to, you know, work the wire and get away. All right, so that's rabbit number 1 for this year. Not huge, maybe 3-4 pounds. And this is a trail we identified as being a rabbit trail because it looked like a rabbit trail and there was rabbit poop on it. Good evidence. The other trail before this one, still no sign of evidence. Anyway, there's one. I'm going to reset the snare and we'll check the other ones. All right, so that's day 3. We only got 1 rabbit. We only have about 7 snares out. I don't know why, I just haven't been in the mood to set more. There's not a lot of obvious trails in the little route I've got. So I just don't feel like putting the energy in to setting additional snares until I get some snow and I see some tracks and that sort of stuff. It would have been better to have 2 because 2 makes a good soup, but you can make a soup from 1, that's fine. And you've got the liver. If you've never tried a rabbit liver, delicious. And always examine the liver. When you're cleaning the rabbit, it should be dark and sort of red-purple. If there's any spots or any discoloration, it's coyote food, the whole thing. Other than that, day 3, 1 rabbit. See you next time. Thanks for watching.